another episode of Talk Fiber to Me, Baby. I'm Caleb Etheridge, CEO at EPC, joined by my brother, Josh Etheridge, CSO. That's the Chief Strategic Officer, we call him.
We like it ambiguous so that nobody knows what I do.
That's the title this quarter. All right, and we're joined by two very distinguished guests and friends of ours, President and CEO of the Monroe Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Roy Heatherly.
Good morning, good afternoon.
Uncle Roy.
Uncle Roy, as the broader community refers to him as, and the mayor of Monroe, Louisiana. And I'm going to go ahead and give you a moment to just go ahead and deliver what kind of day it is.
It is a beautiful day in Monroe.
Excellent.
West Monroe, Ouachita Parish, all over Northeast Louisiana. Things are exploding here right now.
There it is, and that's why we love him. He can bring the energy in the intro, for sure.
Yes.
I should have just let you handle the intro.
Yeah, man, we could have been built up like nobody's business if it was.
I could have been sticking my microphone.
You guys
right.
don't need any buildup. You're on your game all the time.
Oh man. Well, let's jump into that. It's a beautiful day in Monroe, Louisiana. What does that mean?
Well, that's a great question.
Weather's nice.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
And weather is always nice. It's hot, cold. It doesn't matter. It is a beautiful day here. And when I was a kid, there was a guy in Wichita that used to go on the radio and he'd say, "It's a beautiful day." And it always stuck with me. And then when I was here the first time, there was a guy in Rotary named Doyle Parker. He had a cleaner. And at the end of Rotary, he'd always say, "Man, look out the window." He said, "It's beautiful clouds, beautiful sky." And it stuck with me, and God has blessed us in so many ways. Yeah. And when I was interviewing to come back for this job, I watched this man's first State of the City, and I saw something special happening in the city. And my daughter called me right after the first State of the City, and she's crying, and she says, "You got to move back." And I was on a Zoom interview, and I literally got on my knees, and I said, "You have to hire me. I have to be part of this." And God blessed us. We got hired. We came back. But I promised the search committee I'd never, ever, there wouldn't be a day go by that I didn't tell them how great this community is. And I believe that. And every day that I get to wake up here and be around you guys, be around the mayor, and be part of what is happening here, right. It is a beautiful day. It is a beautiful day. Yeah. The things that are happening in this community right now, the transformation, the excitement, the energy, it is how can you not wake up? And I believe this. I tell people this. I believe when people get up in the morning that don't live here, they look in the mirror and they say, "Man, I am so jealous. I wish I lived in Monroe, Louisiana, and could be part of what's happening here right now." So that's a long answer to your question, but it is such an exciting time.
No, that's exactly right.
Yeah, that's exactly where we're going with. And now you've got the CEO of the city, the one who sets out the vision for where it is and how great and beautiful it is, but also in what direction we want to continue to enhance it and grow it. Yeah. Talk a little bit about that. Your first year back into the next term, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of exciting things.
I kind of want to circle back to what Roy was saying. And when I say it's a beautiful day, I think, for our locals, I think it was time for them to look inward and realize that we are surrounded with abundance, to realize just how beautiful we are, because we see it. Other people who visit our city see it. And I think part of that vision, that bringing people along and setting the tone, was reminding people just why we're so special, right? She hates it because every time I'm on a podcast, I always refer to her. It's like my wife, Ashley. She is so beautiful and talented and driven, and what a great mom. And I said, "Baby, if you only saw in you what other people saw in you, there's nothing you couldn't accomplish."
That's strong.
Right? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that was like our city of Monroe. Right. It's just like, we have something special. But the biggest part of convincing people that what we have is our own selves. Right. Kelsey says, all the time, she says, we just had a confidence issue, right? Mm-hmm. That we could compete, and it was just having ways and showing ways to show people we can compete.
Right.
And so setting that vision, I tell people all the time, setting a vision is like a box top to a puzzle. If you dump out a 1,000-piece puzzle on the table and tell somebody to put it together, so much harder. Mm-hmm. But when you set the vision and you show people what you're working towards, give them the box top to the puzzle, it makes it so much easier, and the community knows the direction that you're heading. They understand your priorities. They understand where we're going. It's so much easier to work together when you do that. And it's not pushing people along. It's taking people along with you, empowering people to chase their dreams, do what they need to do, and understanding that they have an administration, a chamber, other people in this community that will help them chase their dreams, clear hurdles that they have, whether it be permitting, whether it be they're starting a nonprofit or how to plug into other people doing great things just to volunteer. So really, man, it's just been a privilege to sit at the helm and to move the city in that direction.
Yeah, and what I've noticed too along the way, and what I've always found helpful when you're setting that strategy, is you talk about the buy-in. It's getting the folks to believe in what they are.
Yeah.
It's allowing them to be a part of the creation of that vision, getting that stakeholder engagement, because you can tell people till you're blue in the face that something needs to happen or we need to go a certain direction.
Yeah.
And it's a sale. You're selling at that point. You're trying to sell them for that buy-in. But when they have a part of creating that vision, they were part of it. They're instantly bought in. It was their idea for a lot of it, a portion of it, whatever the case may be. But they can immediately already see their piece in it. You get the instant buy-in. I think y'all done a fantastic job of doing that.
Both of y'all have done that in your own rights. Uncle Roy, you did that. I want to say that the committees that you set up across the chamber, and really getting the public in and the local entrepreneurs in and business leaders to give their input on each one of these special topics. Was that part of that plan, and did it work out the way you expected it?
We wanted to be, one of the first conversations he and I had was diversifying the chamber. And that looks at race, gender, age, all of the things, and be inclusive. And that's what we wanted to do. So our first, Tanya Hilburn led and Liz Pyle was our facilitator, and we had our first retreat. And I won't tell the story about the mayor putting us on the bus and getting us stuck going over a levee that day, but I'm not going to talk about that.
Got it a little bit? That's awesome.
That's never happened.
We all, as a class, had to push it over.
It was a team building exercise.
The cool thing about being the mayor is I just called another bus and said, hey, y'all get on it.
Hey.
The driver looks at him and he goes, "You can do it." And she goes, "Okay." No. Anyway, but we got together and we said we're coming out of COVID, okay? And we needed to engage our board. And Tanya she said, this is going to be a working board, and we're going to sit in this room this afternoon and we're going to figure out how we can fulfill our mission, which is to create an environment where local businesses thrive. So we created 11 committees. And each of those committees, like a nonprofit, if we can elevate our nonprofits and help them help people, our business community will thrive. Our community will thrive. Technology, government, all of the community engagement. Colby Walker came to me and she said, "Uncle Ron, I don't like any of these." I said, "Well, what do you like?" She said, "I like community engagement. I moved away. I came back because I love this community." And so here we go. We've got now Made in Monroe podcast. We got all those short reels that she's doing. But it was allowing people to get involved and saying it's okay to get involved. And he talked about he leads the way, and you mentioned, and I want him to talk about how he engaged all these people. But when you have a room and you say, "Hey everybody, look at each other and say it's a beautiful day in Monroe, Louisiana," and they look at each other and they say that, there's these grins. And now when I go into a room, I look, I say, "Hey, what kind of day?" And they all start grinning, and people are so excited. And it was like he led the way when he was elected. He said, "We are not going to take second to anybody." And Josh, I love your story because you're in a group. And you
Which
tell that.
One I wonder what we're talking about.
Well, let's keep it PG in here.
You're out there and you're
okay,
loving it.
all right.
Let's start with a different one.
But
There I was.
One of the things that we talk about is not allowing anybody to define who we are.
Yep.
We define who we are.
Right.
It's our story. We own our story. We need to be proud of our story. We're not going to take second to anybody. And you told a group, don't come up here with your poverty simulations anymore, because that's not who we are.
Yeah.
We are alive. We're exciting. We're moving. There's downtown master plans. There's park master plans. There's a research park. There's a medical school. There's technology going crazy. And this is a great time. There's passenger rail. He led that charge. He led a multi-state charge to get us passenger rail here. And while this is, and I'll be quiet because you don't want me to hog it all, but Washington, D.C. Mardi Gras this past January, I watched you three go to bat and go to war for this community in broadband, saving the broadband, saving passenger rail, him going with you on the broadband. And I wish the whole community could have watched you as warriors for this community saying, we are not backing down. We deserve rural broadband. We deserve passenger rail because we are growing. And that's what gets me up every day. And when you say it's a beautiful day, that's what excites me.
And that's why I wanted to have you guys on the podcast, for real. It's about culture. It's about getting innovative solutions, knowing your worth, knowing your story. There's probably people that's going to be watching this that are your entrepreneurs that have been labeled as, you can't do that in business. And you've done things
can't do
in
that
business.
here.
You can't do that here. You can't elevate your community, whatever it may be. And I mean, you guys are the truth of what can be done. And I wanted you to kind of talk about some of the hurdles, but not necessarily hurdles, but how you adapted to them and how you keep this momentum going. I mean, it seems like, it's hard. Like, ask Alabama coach. It's hard. It's hard to stay number one for a long time. We don't talk about him too much here, but I'd like for you to talk about how hard it is to stay number one, keep that momentum.
Yeah. To add on to Roy's point, I heard a wise man, Mr. John Ray, say, before you change hearts and minds, you need to change hearts and mouths in the way that you speak over this community. And when you have the CEO of the city, the CEO of the chamber, they need to say that we are worth it. You're worth it. You're worth the investment. Look, I owned a small business. I loved what I did. But I have always been the person to say, great, it's great. Things are great for you. They're not so great for everybody else.
Right.
And, I was willing to give that up to be able to help other people be successful. It was like you guys in D.C. You want to get me fighting mad. You let the government, same thing got me out of my shop, was you tell the government, this is what we want to do. American industry stands it up. And here you are, you've got mouths to feed, bills to pay, people to do, and they tell you, well, not so fast. That's not how it works. Because most of the problem is the halls of City Hall and sometimes Baton Rouge and D.C. are filled with people that don't know what it means to sign the check on the front. They don't know what that means. And it's time for them to be reminded. And it makes me mad because you guys are game changers in our community. The people they're asking to hold up are the people who are sponsoring things, are the people who are doing their part to make this community a great place to live. Like, you guys are doing it. And when you're messing with my community champions, you're messing with me and my city. And so I was there simply to say, this is ridiculous that we continue to do these things. And I'm going to get off that real quick. But I'm going to tell you, it is tough to lead sometimes because there are self-interests, there are political interests. There are things that keep the city from moving forward, right? And that's all a part of it. But I've always taken the philosophy of, let's find the things that we align on, right? Let's make progress in those things. Let's build trust. Let's move forward, and then we can tackle the hard things once we built the relationship, right? And so we've been successful that way, bringing people along. And you're absolutely right. Our parks, our strategic parks and recreation plans, our downtown strategic plans, the music plan, all these strategies that we've put together were a year and a half of community input. These were town hall meetings, these were meetings in rec centers and churches and things that people can vote on what they wanted. So all of those plans are not my plan. They're the community's plan. And when those things don't sit on a shelf and collect dust like every other strategic plan that was done before them, you're seeing dirt turning. You're seeing new park investments. You're seeing new sidewalks, ADA, beautification, roads, street repairs, sewer capacity, water capacity, all the things that are happening to grow our community, and that plan is not collecting dust. So first of all, when you got in office, I had no clue what to do. And I campaigned on that. I'm a cigar shop owner. Not going to know everything when I get in there.
I have a vision.
I have a
and
vision.
I can put a team together that understands the how.
Absolutely.
I tell them, I say, I just know what we need to do.
Yep.
I don't necessarily know how just yet. That's what y'all guys are for.
Because it goes back to this. You've all seen it. Do you know how much intellectual capital that we have here within the city? Whew. And if we could just stop that talent from bleeding, man, we'd be, and that's how I built my team. I spent 9 months recruiting somebody to come back home because I knew her worth and her talent and her love for this city, but she had to lead find opportunity.
Right.
Most of my team that we recruited they're all ULM grads, but surround yourself with people who can execute that community vision.
That's a moment like Josh tell you yesterday, and I want to ask you, I'm sure
Yeah.
y'all do, but you're talking about that intellectual firepower that you
Yeah.
have in this community. I sat back, we were tackling a really tough subject yesterday. It's 4 o'clock, it's the end of the day, and we bring in our top folks into the room. And I mean, we're having deep conversation, thoughtful, but just so like innovative and really working through it. And we got to the end of it, and I just looked at him, I said, damn, we're a strong team.
Yeah.
I was like, it was
Yeah.
tough. It was a tough conversation. But like they just worked through it and listening to the different perspectives and well, we need to think about this and what if this happens and like we're playing devil's advocate and poking holes in each other's thoughts but we at the end we landed and we're like, all right, let's go forward, and we could go forward confidently. And I just sat back and I'm like, y'all realize how much firepower we have and the type of challenges we can now conquer? I'm like, you should walk out of this room with a ton of confidence. Yeah. This city right now, I believe, has a ton. I have a ton of confidence in y'all. I see the team that y'all have, and that's a lot of firepower.
But we talked about being inclusive and input and all that, but one of the things that the mayor, I think, did for us is he says we control our own destiny. Mm-hmm. He said we own our own story, and he said we're not going to be afraid of anything, and he leads by being on the front of that lead. Mm-hmm. He's in ditches cleaning them out if there is a rainstorm, but he tackles things like economic development. He tackles things like sewers and infrastructure that no one else wanted to touch.
Yeah.
And now we're cleaning out infrastructure, building a foundation, and he's out there saying that it's us. Why not Monroe?
Yeah.
Why not Northeast Louisiana? And to me, that has inspired not only Monroe, but West Monroe and Ouachita Parish and Northeast Louisiana.
And everybody outside this state.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, let's look at just, when you say why not Monroe, I think we're at the point where people are now saying it is Monroe.
Yeah,
when you hear Meta and contractors said that we've been around the country, you all have the secret sauce in this region. Mm-hmm. You have something that we have never experienced anywhere we've been because it's your people. And it sounds so hokey.
Yeah.
But what I know is our people, just like anybody else, we ain't afraid of nothing. No. And why does that? That's what was so shocking to me about our community was like, why are we afraid to think big, act bold? I've been told, Roy knows this story, I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus. Oh, Mayor, he asked for too many pie in the sky things. I'm sorry that you are mediocre and you're okay with being mediocre.
The status quo.
But once again,
and you're uncomfortable now.
But you have to take this approach because we are not in this region. We're not competition with one another. We are complements of one another. Yes. Mm-hmm. It's all about a mindset. I am not afraid to collaborate because you know why? Because if something is in Ruston, we win. Ruston wins. If something is in Rayville, we win. Yep. They win. Our region wins. Because you have to understand how our people live here. They're going to live here, work here. They're going to drive back home. They're going to work here and live there and drive back home. We are a transient community, and it's good for the region. And so Monroe, the decisions we make, we cannot be so insular to think that the decisions we make don't affect an entire region. That's why when we do these things, we collaborate. Passenger rail went into Mississippi with Mayor Flaggs to partner, right? We had the great leadership of the Southern Rail Commission that's been doing this forever and a day. But you know what? You know what it takes? It takes mayors along I-20 willing to work together and not compete against one another to be able to pull something like this off. And guess what? When you roll up in the halls of Washington and go from every member from Texas all the way to Georgia, and you've got mayors working together, they go, I'll be damned, this is great. Mm-hmm. When you go, tell them about the first time, and I'm going to call him out, Senator Cassidy. When he came here, he was just like, what did he say?
So we had dinner over at the warehouse, and I said, what do you think of Monroe, Northeast Louisiana?
This was early on,
by
the way.
He looks up at the ceiling, and he was thinking of how not to maybe insult me, I guess. I don't know. Pretty sure that but he brought his head down, and this is July of 21, and he said, Ruston has their act together. And I said, I'm the Monroe Chamber guy. He said, I know that.
Yep.
He said, you guys,
this is not the right way.
He said, you guys never got along.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward to November of 22. He comes in for Southern Rail Commission.
Yeah.
Just in that short period of time, he spends 25 minutes bragging on Mayor, on Stacy Mitchell, on this community, and the collaboration that was happening, the leadership that he's giving, and how excited he was about this city. And I thought, wow, we've come. That fast. We're moving that fast.
It is that fast. And I know y'all probably, I'll just say it in my own words. Like, I'm glad you said I-20. I-20 about to show I put I-10 in its place.
Yes, exactly right.
I joke. The whole state, what's good, like you said, for the region is good for the whole state. But there's about, again, I guess I'll step out on a limb. I'm hearing things.
Yeah.
I mean, you just said it. In 4 years, what's being said, the difference. And now I'm hearing things like, now the newest projection is 10 to 15 years. Monroe might be the second or third largest metro in the entire state.
Yeah.
Let that sink in for a half a second.
Yeah.
Anybody listening, I can't, and I love this place, and I'm as visionary as the next one. I can't hardly fathom that.
Well, I think
but that's the reality of what folks that are in the meta spaces and talking about what's coming. They're looking at us going, "This is coming."
Yeah.
Like, get ready.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got folks like y'all that are going to be on the front end of this.
Yeah, and I think the mayor touched on it too about the collaboration. I mean, we're in a lot of places. We go to like 26 shows a year.
Yeah.
But it's almost like you're in almost all the same places. We see each other in weird places all the time.
Yeah.
And it takes those collaborative efforts, but you're going there.
Oh,
You're going to talk with them in person to say, "Here, I'm a person.
Yeah.
Monroe's a place," and you're talking collaboratively. And we've seen that in our company. When we start talking about entrepreneurs, he was talking about that meeting we had where we had a bunch of people in one room to discuss one effort we're all pushing, and that feedback loop of how long that takes to go meet with one person, come back, meet with another, come back, meet with, and then you have to put together what you thought you heard from everybody. But the truth is, that's Friday's, that's Mayor Friday's interpretation of it. If you get everybody in the room like you guys have been doing and saying, "We're all going to talk about this when we leave here, we're going to have something to do."
Why would John or Jane Schmuckatelli, who works in the Department of Commerce in DC, over another French? No, I think that Schmuckatelli. That's Italian. But think about it. These are folks over buckets of money. Why would they know where Monroe, Louisiana is?
Yeah.
Whose job is it to let them know? Whose job is it to go talk about the applications that there are in there? Right? They're not going to know. They're going to read an application, they're going to see it, and they're going to go and they're going to do their little BCA and their all calculations. But when the mayor shows up and the city council and the university and the Chamber of Commerce and they're sitting with them, they all go, this just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Then they know your project. That's why we've been so successful. Roy, I have to remind people, and I remind my team all the time, like, we do serious work and we have moved mountains. Don't let this kill your joy, right? Like, we have moved mountains in the first 3 years. I say 3 years because nothing was going on in my first term because of COVID, okay?
Right.
We have completely fixed a economic development situation in Northeast Louisiana. In that, I spent a ton of political capital, and I was backed, and we were backed by parish police jury, by Mayor Mitchell, and we had to go out there and we wouldn't let each other fail, right? We hired somebody who said we would never be able to hire, okay? We have deployed close to $120 million in infrastructure funding our first 3 years. That is a lot of money that's shown up in our communities because we successfully deployed what we had. We drew down federal dollars and multiplied that.
We went out and done public-private. I mean, let's talk connectivity for a second. AT&T.
We are the first city to enter and use, because you know our situation.
Right.
We got left out of a lot of that gumbo funding because of our population, and we already had some connectivity.
Right.
We were the first city to leverage public-private partnership and join to be the first city that will be connected, fully connected in the state of Louisiana through public-private partnership. People are looking to us now saying, where will be the first city to be able to have that done?
That's problem solving.
So say all that now. We know what's coming. Meta is here. Give the community a little snippet. Before this economic development situation was untangled, we were responding to about 8 RFPs a year. Okay?
A
8.
year.
What's that up to now?
Per year.
A year.
Just in January and February, Rob showed the slide. 28 new leads, okay? If we filled every single one of those new leads, those equaled 4,000 new jobs and 14 billion with a B, billion in new investment.
Northeast Louisiana.
Billy's.
Billions. I can tell you that we now have continued to build team, we're building capacity. Now, what good does all that investment mean if you can't give them a will serve letter for sewer, if you can't give them water, if you don't have the infrastructure to stand it up, the broadband service to be able to connect them and their workforce? So tell me once again, like, why it's important to have people. The work we did was unsexy work. Sewer, water, drainage, all of it. But it's the foundation that is needed to set your community up for external growth, and that's something we haven't seen.
Right.
Now, new investment's cool. What about your people who have been here forever, right? We had somebody welding in the I-20 development district, has been begging for drainage work. Every time it would rain, they'd be knee-deep in water. Immediately moved to drainage project. You know what they're doing? They're expanding. Imagine that,
Yeah.
right? Right.
Yeah,
All those
when
for
you
sale
invest,
signs.
they'll invest.
Yeah, all those for sale signs down interstate. Guess what? Sticks in the air, cutting ribbon, doing
Right.
things, right? It matters when you have people who are, instead of looking out for where they need to be in 4 more years, looking out where the city needs to be in 4 more years. Right?
And, you know, we're a broadband-ish podcast, so I want to hone in just on broadband's kind of role in that and a little advocation for that. One of the things that's going to be a challenge with a huge expansion in population is going to be healthcare.
Yeah.
Broadband's role in providing telehealth. Just kind of give us your take on the how important that will be for your city.
Oh, come on. You know, my wife's an educator too.
Uh-huh.
Her program is stood up on live synchronous classes, Skyping in to teach courses to people in West Carroll, Richland Parish, Morehouse Parish. Live synchronous classes, because these are individuals who can't stop work to go back to school. And so she stood up the state's first teacher apprenticeship model with a CEA with the university, and those classes are taught live synchronous, breakout sessions, whole 9, right? Healthcare, absolutely right. We have to understand the population we serve, right? Great. We know people don't always have the opportunity to go to a doctor's visit, but what if we brought that doctor's visit to them? It's nothing new. We're not reinventing the wheel. Now we're giving them the opportunity to do what the rest of the world is doing, right? And so when people talk about connectivity, in my opinion, it's just, if not, I heard funny story. Water, sewer, great utilities. Bust a water line, nobody's coming out the house. Bust a sewer line, ain't nobody coming out the house. You cut somebody's fiber or their connectivity to the internet, they're coming out of the house with a frying pan, right? You know, it's like, it is that important to people because somebody's running a small business.
Right.
Somebody's working from home. That's how their kids will learn after school and connectivity.
It's driving people out of rural America into the city because there's no connectivity. There's the number one asked question now when somebody views a house, when they're doing a house show and asks a realtor, what's the number one question you get? What's the connectivity like?
There's statistics now coming out from Amazon, which is ironic because they run the Kuiper system, but latency and what each millisecond or hundredth of a second means in gross domestic products. I like it as like, what does it mean dollar per megabyte per second? And they can actually tabulate that and say, for every about 0.01 second of latency, it costs you this much money in traffic, it costs you this much money in GDP, it costs the state this much money in new growth. They can actually calculate all that.
And that's latency. So we're getting into like how fast, you know, the reaction time is from when you click a button, it goes to wherever it needs to go and comes back.
But we bring all that back.
Connectivity in general. You know, now, but they're starting to get into just the lack of, even if you have connectivity, whatever technology you're using, which for us is kind of a no-brainer. That's why you need to be leaning on fiber. Very, very low latency. It's going to be, we talk about leading from the front and really setting us up. A visionary needs to be looking out 5 and 10 years. You've got to have the best technologies out there to enable the city, to enable its residents, to enable you say it all the time, like we're the hub of all Northeast Louisiana. Like whatever's good for that, we're a transient community. Same way goes with connectivity. If we can get connectivity out to these rural parts of our region, that's going to be a lift for everyone.
You know, I want to get y'all's opinion on that.
Well, it's a lift for our city as well.
Right.
I mean, because we have issues. The mayor's addressed food deserts in South Monroe or postal deserts. Connectivity is a desert for us a lot of times. And the health part of that is people, I mean, sometimes some of our residents have to ride a bus for an hour and a half. This is where that helps them. You tell a story, Josh, about at Amber at one of her clinics.
My wife.
Your wife. And one of her clinics, and why that resonated with you about rural broadband for telehealth.
Yeah, there was people riding their lawnmowers barefooted up there. You know, I mean, and they didn't have PTO. They couldn't take off and say, hey, I need to get a referral, and then the next week have to go, you know, maybe wait weeks and weeks and weeks to be able to see. You could have been seeing telehealth, not missed an hour or a day of time at your job, which pays by the hour, which doesn't have PTO, and then had that referral in a few weeks that much faster.
But tell me how important that visit was to somebody that they said, it's so important to me and my health and me staying at work or doing whatever, that I'm going to ride a lawnmower up there.
Yeah,
like,
right.
so, it sounds funny,
Yeah.
but let's get to the core of that.
Yes.
That's how important it was to that person, because they had to stay healthy to be in work. Because they miss a day of work, they might lose their job.
Now you're
or they miss a
literally
paycheck.
Now you're literally linking connectivity with saving
Correct.
lives.
Correct.
But I want to go back to something too on the sewer work and cleaning out. It's going to help us economically. It really is. But ask the people that he goes and knocks on their door in South Monroe that have been flooded for years, or their sewer backs up every time it rains, that's not happening anymore.
Yeah.
That's why we're creating an environment where a local business can thrive, is because we're helping all of our residents. And that's what's so special about this community. It's the DNA, it's our heart, it's our soul. I mean, it's really special.
It is.
So a holistic approach to the entire community, the entire North Louisiana region is part of what's created the momentum.
Yes. But I want to throw it at you guys, okay? Your stories is unbelievable. And to me, you reflect and are really the poster child for entrepreneurial business growth in our area and why people want to come in. I mean, you guys are in fire. I mean, you love the Lord. You got this energy. You are building a fantastic team, but you could be, but you wouldn't be anywhere else in the world. You could be. You guys could take this talent, and you were away. But your story, and to me, it just reflects the community. And when I talk to people and they start talking business, the first name that comes out of my mouth is EPC. Is because of the story that you guys have built and continue to build each chapter, and it's fun. And I appreciate the fact that I get to come to your Christmas party every year. You invite me to that Christmas party.
And we have a heck of
We
a
don't let the
Christmas party.
secret out.
And Beth says, Beth will tell me, we do our gala and stuff, but what her question is, when's EPC's Christmas party?
We've gotten to where we have to put it on separate weeks. You can only do one in a 1 week and one in the other, because if you have to do both in the same week, you can't handle it.
But thank you guys. Thank you for your
welcome.
investment.
I'll echo that, Roy, because I'd tell people, part of the journey in entrepreneurship is overcoming that fear of stepping out on your own. I'm the king of bad analogies. I said, being an entrepreneur is like stepping in a room with your underwear on, right? You kind of hope everybody likes what they see, because it's your dream.
But it's a little risky.
You're putting your dream out there. Yeah. Like you're literally, but you are putting your dream out there, and you hope everybody loves it as much as you do, right?
Yeah.
And to overcome that fear, because there are a lot of things. My wife was in the classroom. I didn't take a paycheck home for my first year, right? It was just constantly investing into the business. Your story is similar to that. You guys, I don't know what we're doing, but we're smart enough to figure this thing out, right?
Or I can maybe find the people who can.
There you go. Or, like you said, it's stories like that you don't know, and it's podcasts like this that you're telling your story that give people, that little nudge that they may need to jump out there and do what they need to do. But you're also the kind of guys to come back and say, hey, I'll have coffee with you and answer questions. Anything. You may have a different business, but I'll answer those questions. And so I think that network piece, the availability you guys have, if there's ever an issue that we had and we called you guys, you were always there.
Right.
Whether it be a personal issue, community issue, business issue, you guys are always there. And I encourage everybody that watches this podcast to if you get an opportunity to see you guys in town, just talk about it, tell your story. It's a really funny story, but it's really great, and it just goes to show you don't have to know everything. Most people think you got to know everything. You got to have all this money in the world. There's these, no, I slept on an air mattress and worked pipeline with dudes from Pioneer, Oak Grove, and up in West Carroll Parish and East Carroll Parish.
Story.
And it just sent your money back home and just opened the doors. Right. And my wife was like, I got to have it perfect. I was like, I had to get it perfect. Actually, it's just like, open the door.
Just do.
There we go.
Open the door and let them in, and your business will grow.
That was the vision for a lot of this. The podcast was.
Yeah.
And thank y'all for coming on today to really reinforce that reality.
Yeah.
This is a place where it's endless possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Entrepreneurs that are a little bit skittish of taking that leap, this is what this was for. When we envisioned it, we're going to talk about fiber, we're going to talk about the industry and things going on, but one thing we wanted to make sure we incorporated was that message that this is a place, this is a region in this state that's got a lot of exciting things going on and endless possibilities. Thank y'all for coming on today and expanding on that a little bit.
Thank you for having us. Thank you guys for just being you guys.
Well, that's another episode of Talk Fiber to Me, Baby. Appreciate y'all listening in. Like, comment, share. We appreciate all of you. If you've got any questions that came up from just something you heard here, feel free to reach out. If y'all want to do a plug, like some emails, maybe a website, whatever.
R. Heatherly at monroe.org, 914-0764. Call me.
There we
That's
go.
right.
There we
And
go.
look, my staff hates me when I do this, especially my wife, but my personal cell phone number, 318-355-9869. Fastest way to get to me is text me. I try to stay accessible. You put me in this office to work for you. You're my boss. If you need anything, pothole, whatever it is, I don't care. I love to have coffee, meet folks. Call me anytime, text me anytime. I try to stay as accessible as possible as I can.
Yeah, so that's what you have here. Accessible people that's leading from the front. And again, just thank y'all for coming on today.
It's infectious, man. I hope this thing spreads to the internet like nobody's business.
Reach out and mostly reach out on how you can plug in. Thank y'all.
Yeah.